So there was a question that Alice and I had talked about, this idea of, Alice said that she received guidance to write Dance of Light. And we were maybe wondering if you could say more about that. What does it mean to listen to your guidance?
Nice.
And how did you experience that?
Okay. Basically, to learn how to become quiet and still, and that to hear, and as the Bible says, that still small voice. But you can have a lot of other things that you might think is your guidance. And so in the Christian tradition, they talk about discernments of spirits. And this is where a guide can help you. What's the voice coming from? Is it coming from a very high place or coming from your own psychological material or whatever? And that's where the purification process helps us so much, because the more you get rid of, the clearer you will get this guidance. And it comes to different people in different ways. Sometimes an image will come that's the right guidance, or a song for somebody who's audio. Though me, I just get an impression. I just know. Mm-hmm. I know, that's it. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you, Alice. So dovetailing off of that, Laura Peters has a question. Okay. And the question is, do you have words of guidance to aspiring writers? What has supported you to produce these two beautiful books? Thank you, Laura, for your question.
So say it again, that I have guidance to write the book, but yes, what exactly?
What words of guidance do you have to other aspiring writers? And I guess it's two separate questions, really. And what has supported you to produce your two beautiful books?
Okay. I guess every writer is different. For me, early morning writing, 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm done. And I do other things. I see clients or whatever. When my kids were young and I was writing my thesis, then I would just play with them. Previously, they'd go to nursery school, whatever, and I sit down and write right away and then be done with it for the rest of the day. Other people take a while to get into their process, and so they might need a longer period of time to write. Consistency, I think Laura knows this. Consistency is so important. Every day to spend some time writing, and I know Maureen does the same thing as well. Yeah. So and I open up and ask each time for guidance. When I write, I get to, especially if I get to a place where, okay, what is this? And then I just try to tune in. I walk away sometimes and the answer comes to me, and then I come back and write. So that's helpful as well.
I have a couple other questions, but the comments in the chat are just warming my heart. I have to read this out loud. Sean McDowell says, "Excellent work, Mom." So one can be free of one's roles, apparently, but it's still so beautiful to see people checking in. Jill Harrison is saying, grateful to my first teacher who guided me into a life where the divine beloved is the pole star of my life, the greatest gift. How beautifully expressed to help somebody find their pole star.
Thank you, Jill.
Elizabeth Einstein is asking or wondering, the spiritual path stages are cyclic rather than linear. Is that correct thinking?
Yes, and it's neither linear or cyclical. It hops all around. Wow. And nobody does the same.
Wow.
It's not the same hopping. It's not the same dance with each person.
That's very interesting. So did you want to share something, Alice? We had talked about the idea of the footnotes in the book. What challenges did you face writing the book? And there's 279 footnotes in this book. Now that's a lot of footnotes, I think. And I loved it because it's such a treasure trove of where you can look and recommendations, and it's so grounded in that way. So do you want to say a little bit about how the journey for you of how the footnotes got included into a book where it's very accessible and conversational and you have a relationship with the reader? What was your journey with your footnotes?
It was quite a journey. My writing coach said, "Is this going to be academic or trade?" And I said, "Trade. I don't want to be academic." And she said, "Well, you don't need that footnotes. You just give the name and the book that it's in." And then when I started working with Jill Swenson, who was the book developer and agent for me, a wonderful agent, by the way, she said, "No, you have to have footnotes." So some of them I had erased, and others I had given books away and I couldn't find the exact details. So she and I did a lot with those footnotes, but I have two stories to tell about those. One is that Pir Vilayat quote that I gave about the dark night of the soul. I wanted to use that. I knew it was from the book Thinking of the Universe. I couldn't find it anywhere. And then it somehow I found out that it was in the New York Public Library. So my friend Kevin, and I think he's here tonight, lived in New York City. So I asked him to go, but the public library was closed because of COVID. And but they had a screening in New Jersey somewhere where they would screen any part of your book, of course, for a price. So they screened the table of contents and we couldn't find which chapter that would be in. So he ordered a copy, but it was in Britain. And so it took a long time to come, but finally came, and then he mailed it up to me. Now that is quite a circuitous process to find one of the 279 foot notes. So there was another great one where that I read about that man shining, seraphim of Seraph. And I heard Ithaca College had the book. I found that out. Maybe Jill found that out for me. So I called, it was on a Sunday, and a student was there. And she said she'd look up the book, and she tried to find the passage so I wouldn't have to come in. And she did. And she said, this is an interesting book. I think I'll read it. So she was on to the spiritual journey just for me trying to look for that footnote. So it was hard and it was fun. What's the most interesting thing, there are two professors now who are going to be using their book in their mysticism courses. And so it's great that those footnotes are there.
I love hearing that. And you had said in our talk when you and I had been conversing earlier in the week that a lot of Dance of Light originally came from the work that you had done when you were teaching mysticism at Ithaca College. So I think that does underscore your point. Things hop around. There's a way that there is a hopping. And we were laughing too. I wanted to just say about when I first met Alice, a friend of mine had said, you have to meet this amazing woman and she teaches mysticism. And I'm like, mysticism? Of course I want to meet an amazing woman, and I would love to get an easy A. How hard could mysticism be? And I did not get an A, I would like to say. And I've basically spent the last 42 years studying this. So it was at the very beginning of a journey. And you offer so much. I want to say one of the comments, Paige Morgan said, "Alice, you saved my life. Thank you. You continue to be a shining light." So many of us feel that way about you, Alice. Mary Gilliland would like to know what is on your horizon. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off Paige's comment either. I'm sorry, Paige, I went a little fast there. I apologize.
Thank you so much, Paige. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Paige. So Alice, Mary Gilliland would like to know what is on your horizon.
I'm not sure. I will be doing some marketing for the book, podcasts, and hopefully in person, maybe this summer, to do that. I have a blog or two in mind, but I always just wait, basically wait for the guidance, wait to be moved. So I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing in the future.
It's a lot of work to put a book out into the world and to just, support it and sort of be the wind in its sails. And so I have two really great questions. One from McCadden. I think I'm saying that name right. Um,
Yes.
and another from Margaret. So I will start with McAdams.
And
Um,
McCadden is my social media person.
oh,
And
great.
she's doing a great
Great.
job.
She's doing a very good job. I'm very impressed with the Instagram stuff. Do you think that I'm sorry, sorry, McAdams is, could you speak more on how dance, specifically as a metaphor, expresses and integrates the teachings from these different spiritual traditions?
Well, I think part of that I've said already, that it's a dance between the different stages of the journey. And the way I present it, all the traditions, or at least these three, and I present a few others as well, but mostly I focus on these three, are doing that dance. And everybody does it in a different way. I would say in the Buddhist tradition, there's not a mention of the dark night of the soul, but there's a little phrase that says, now that all the attachments have ceased, so okay, they went through the dark night of the soul, but it's not really talked about at all. So some traditions emphasize one thing more than another. I like the idea of a dance, even the name. That was one of the difficulties, coming up with the name of the book. And my family got together over Thanksgiving, and they worked on it. And there was 3 generations of trying to come up. They came up with dimensions of light. And then another friend of mine, Lynn, she gave a stream of consciousness. And we both said, dance of light, that's it. It's very intuitive, McCadden, of why I chose a dance. The last chapter talks about where you are on the dance, and that you don't have to worry about what other people are doing or dancing. It's just where you are in the present moment doing the dance of life.
I love it. It's so beautiful. So Margaret, I love this question. This is from Margaret Nichols in Ithaca. Do you think that difficult times like this pandemic have helped people in their spiritual growth or hindered them, or both, some of each depending on the person? To me, that's a very interesting question. What do you think, Alice?
Well, I think that last part is correct. For some people, it's been a tailspin. I've looked at it, especially when we were all isolated, like a big retreat. And when you're on retreat, your stuff comes up. You got to look at it because there's no escape. And I think that happened to many, many people. I think introverts generally really liked it. I wrote my book during that time, and others felt they had more time to meditate, more time to read what they wanted to read, and that was a encouragement. All maybe the spiritual journey, but I think some people got so depressed that it really didn't help them at all.
Yeah. So I think this question also might dovetail. This is from Vito from Janet's iPad. On page
Hi.
People are popping in. Everything's happening. There's a lot going on here in the chat.
Good.
On page 84, you speak of societal purification. So I think this dovetails off of this idea of the pandemics and war. Can you elaborate on that? So that's a pretty deep one. I don't know. What do you think of that one?
Well, I tried to answer that in the book as much as I can, that growth comes after disintegration. And it happened in World War I and the Spanish flu. It happened after World War II. And I explained exactly what happened to society after those things. And there are teachers who say today that this particular difficult time that we're going through is like the caterpillar becoming mush before it becomes a butterfly. And perhaps we can look at what's happening now, at least in a hopeful way, that something important and good will come from this. Who knows? We'll have to see.
I know that's a lot. I'm sure, I'm guessing as a spiritual director and the work that you do, that's been coming up a lot, because there's so much confusion and hunger and disorientation right now. So these questions, I think, are quite beautiful and timely. Martha says, thank you, peace, light, and love to you. And Felicity says, dance is perfect. It reminds me of one of the early Orthodox explanations for the Trinity as, I don't know how to say, parachoresis, a circle dance.
Parachoresis.
Parachoresis. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. God is not the three parts, but rather the communal energy. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So Aya is saying, it seems that the spiritual stages as cyclical as opposed to linear is more revolutionary than we are giving it credit for. Is this a new insight which Alice is bringing to the spiritual studies world, or has this been known but misunderstood by many, such as with the stages of grief? So Alice, I guess the question is, it's this idea of things being cyclical. Is this, do you think that this is something that your studies are illuminating, or is this a new insight which you are putting forth?
It's hard to know where you get these things from. So it's somewhat new, but people often talk about the spiral, that it goes around, but there's growth as well each time. And I think that image has been applied a lot. I don't know about stage hopping or dancing the stages. That might be more my insight.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Again, the chat is just popping with beautiful things. Marilyn McNamara said, can you comment on the role of both faith and of perseverance?
Yeah, and I think I want to address this. Marilyn is my good friend. She and Lynn Lagarde we were in graduate school together in theology, and we have stayed friends ever since. We connect, get together every couple of years or so and talk theology the whole time. It's really a lot of fun. So I think it's between will and faith, or you're doing and then you're surrendering to something else. And that's a tension that's there. We need to surrender and open up. And we also need to have a discipline. So it's two sides of the same coin. Both are really necessary.
So it's about getting that balance of, striving, but then turning it over, I guess. So Buffalo Street Books is it is ISIS. Great. Okay. Wanted to appreciate that you integrate Orthodox teachings as well as the other traditions. My father is named for Saint Seraphim, and I named my daughter after him. So sweet to see my family's spiritual tradition reflected here. What a beautiful
nice
connection. That's a beautiful connection.
Very nice.
So Alice, people might be curious, what practices do you have today? Like what, you write about a lot of different things. The book there's such a treasure trove. Again, you talk about back, doing the forgiveness exercise. You talk about a lot of different things that have pushed you to where you're at now, helped you let go, helped you shed things. But what are your practices today? What are you doing now that you find gives you the sustenance that you need?
One practice I've done for many, many years, and that's connecting with the chakras in the body. I just stay present to them and have them activate. It's like a tune-up every day. And they're all connected with different aspects of your being. So it's a way of deeply connecting. I do a lot of just sitting and opening, and just being in the presence, so to speak. I remember we talked about this a little, Maureen, and you love the fact that the Sufi prayers, I was getting bored with those in the beginning. And now, see, you come around a little bit higher on the spiral. I love them in a sense of, I just dwell on every word and feel myself in those spaces. So things can grow and change in your practice. And then other practices like the chakra one, they stay with you for a long time.
And that's a wonderful model for us, Alice, because, having been on retreat with you, I come home with papers and practices and suggestions, and I keep them in a box. And it's true. Sometimes I get them out, and sometimes I'll finally understand how to do it, or I'll finally understand like, oh, this is what I need to do now. And then I'll get that traction forward. You just don't always really know how that's going to be, and it's different. Everybody's different in that way. So I appreciate you saying that about the Sufi prayers, especially because it seems to, I mean, I've learned all of them. For all the ones that I know, I've learned from you, like the beautiful, my heart is an ocean, beloved. My heart is an ocean, beloved. What is
Since thou hast poured thy love into it.
So beautiful. So, I mean, you have there's such beautiful snippets of complete poetry, those sayings. So
that's Hazrat Inayat Khan. Yes.
So I have a question from Bernadette. Can you say anything about how it is possible to have a unity experience and have it not last? The feeling of falling from grace. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference between intermittent awakening, as Adyashanti says, and permanent awakening. So yes, you can tap into those experiences of unity and that, but then you pop out again. The unitive state itself, that there's no more oscillations. It's just you're there all the time. You sense, as that place that I read, an underlying peace, an underlying love that's there all the time. So that takes quite some doing, because most of us aren't in that permanent state yet.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So the unity experience, very interesting, the feeling of falling from grace. Felicity shared in our chat that she was the one who had the Kindle version and then went to get the hard copy. So the person amongst us has that. So there's also a link from Buffalo Street in here again for you to buy the book. And I think that's about all our questions so far. Please feel free to put any other lasting questions. This chat has been so beautiful, so rich, and you can hear, Alice, how your book is touching people and helping people get traction forward.
I want to read it afterwards, yes.
Yeah, you should definitely look.
And Buffalo Street Books, I didn't have to pay for this. They did it all for free. So I'd like to underscore using that bookstore as well.
Oh, so I'm going to answer this. Somebody had said, why is the hard copy better than the Kindle? I was just recommending, for me personally, that maybe because I like the tactile part, just like old school nerd. Because I like to be able to underline things and then keep it with my other books during my morning meditation. So that was why I had recommended personally. I found the hard copy working. So,
and I just want to say, whatever works for you. And yeah. I just want to get that information out.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what form it's in.
No, it's true. I agree with that. I had just been, talking about Felicity saying like, okay, but yes, if the Kindle version works for you, and that means that you can take your Kindle, pop it into your pocketbook and have it with you at all times with all the other books that you're reading, that's perfect. So we have Felicity, and then Peter Fortunato has a question. So,
and I think we'll end it there because we've gone past our time.
Okay, so Peter, why don't we we'll take Peter's question. What would you say about the relationship between working on one's psychology and taking the path as a mystical seeker, the connection there?
I think the psychology happens a lot in the purification stage. And I think spirituality is bigger. You might say psychology is a subset of spirituality. But that's where I would place it. I don't know if he wants a follow-up of that, whether I really answered that question. Did I, Peter? Did I answer that question for you?
It's a good one.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are people who have spiritual aspirations, but they have a lot of obstacles, or we might say obscurations in Buddhist terminology, that are of a psychological origin, and it can be disorienting to them to take the mystical path unless they have worked with some of their psychological issues. Conversely, some people have the illusion, well, if I take a spiritual path, then I won't have to deal with my psychology.
Yes.
So that's my observation, but I wonder, Alice, if you wanted to say anything more about that.
Well, the last part, you're talking about the spiritual bypass, where, yeah, everything's wonderful and beautiful and everything. But I think spending that time on purification, as I did this evening, says that's not where it's at. You really have to go through a lot of shedding of all of that stuff. And what was the first part? Psychology is
that some people, basically their psychological issues might be holding them up, or they might become obstacles to them.
Yeah. Yes. And that needs the purification, that needs healing and help. Yes. And they might not think sometimes that their issues are there. They might even sometimes think they're doing spiritual work when it's really not the issues. I know sometimes they'll say, well, my guidance told me to do this, when that wasn't true at all. It was really that they didn't want to do it. And so they put off on the spiritual. So they speak spiritual speak, but it's really coming from their own psychology. Yeah, very true.
So I'm going to close with one of your quotes that you use, Alice, from John of the Cross. And I think this is such a beautiful, it's at the ending of your book, this idea of surprise after surprise and the abundance that can be found in the spiritual life. So this is from John of the Cross, Spiritual Canticle. For he is like an abundant mine with many recesses, containing treasures of which for all who try to fathom them, the end and bottom is never reached. Rather, in each recess, seekers continue to find new veins of new riches on all sides. And Alice closes the book with, your discoveries continue without end. Perhaps the struggles and challenges of the spiritual life are worth it, connected to that beautiful quote of new veins and new riches on all sides. Clearly, this discussion, so many beautiful comments here, and just being able to talk to you, Alice, it really is, it is a never-ending treasure full of all sorts of, you're never reaching the end and the bottom. And we're all so grateful that you wrote this book. Of course, you have so many people wishing you the best of luck with the book. And I want to thank Buffalo Street Books for hosting us this evening, working with us through the technical issues, and allowing us all to be together as a community. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody too for coming. It's been such a joy for me to be with you and connect with you. And many, many blessings to you.